director here. I ran the Wendover Airport for a number of years, and now I'm just working on the museum.
And so today is a special, important, any number of incredible words that you could use to describe what happened 75 years ago. Tell me what it means to walk through, to see the models, the pictures, the replicas of the bomb on a day like today.
Well, of course, today is August 6th, the day that Hiroshima was bombed with the first atomic bomb. It was, in our day, it was actually August 5th, but August 6th is the day that it happened in Japan. Of course, the war had been dragging on for a lot of years, and the hope certainly was that this bomb, which had a horrific power, would somehow shock the Japanese into surrendering. Wendover, which was virtually unknown until after the war, had a major role in that atomic bomb. They built 150 prototype atomic bombs here. There was never any nuclear material in Wendover, but each of the bombs, this bomb behind me had 4 radar systems, 6 barometric sensors, clock mechanisms, electrical safeties, and all of that had to be tested and working for that bomb to function correctly. And Wendover did all of that in secret. So there was a major role that we played out here.
And not only that, but the Enola Gay is iconic as an aircraft. It's a B-29 Super Fortress, correct?
Yes.
And the image of that aircraft, I think, is burned into maybe not necessarily the youngest generation, but the minds of everybody over the age of 25, I would hope, at least. And so, the fact that all started right here, what do you have to say for those that may not know about the history that's right here in their own backyard?
Well, of course, World War II history is, we're getting further and further away from that. And that history needs to not be forgotten. The sacrifices of our veterans, it's something that as the generations get further from that time, that needs to not get lost in our memories. We don't ever want to see another atomic bomb dropped, but it's something that ended the war. It's something that's a part of history. It's something that took place here in Wendover, and very few Utahns know that, and yet our objective here is to restore that. Wendover has 85 plus of the 668 original buildings here. It's the most original remaining Army Air Force base in the country. It's a place where people can come and feel the history of those veterans, of those Army Air Force veterans that trained and worked and died here and went on, the B-17, B-24 guys in the European theater to help there. The 306 bomb group, this is off the subject, but the 306 bomb group, which trained first here in Wendover, was the first group in Wendover, was the first bomb group to go over Germany and bomb Germany. And then, of course, all those other groups, and then it ended up with the atomic missions and the B-29s here. We built a hangar specifically for the B-29s, and from the end of October to the 1st of March, that 55,000 square foot hangar went from nothing to being built. It was an incredible undertaking. Of course, the whole mission was, but what went on at Wendover was terrifically significant and very secretive. There were 400 FBI agents assigned to watch over the 1,700 airmen to make sure that this secret didn't get out. So it's an amazing place, just a stunning history out here.
And so, for those that don't know the whole story or have forgotten it from walk me through the Enola Gay, the B-29, tell who Colonel Paul Tibbets is, and a little bit for the history for people that don't know exactly what the mission was and why it was important.
Well, all of the engineering for this atomic bomb took place in Los Alamos. After they got the engineering done and figured out it would work, there was a project called Alberta that was the deliverable bomb. Well, they needed a place to build all these prototypes and test it. No, we were going to drop from 30,000 feet. Nobody had ever done that before. So Wendover is where they tested it. Colonel Tibbets was given the assignment to put together the 509th Composite Group. And that was a group, they called it a composite group, because it had its own engineering, and it had its own logistics, it had its own MPs, its own bomb squadron, so that they didn't need to rely on anybody outside to get in and understand secretively what was going on. So that group was just self-contained. The 320th Troop Carrier Squadron, C-54s, ferried everything from Los Alamos to here, and from here to Tinian. So Colonel Tibbets commanded that group. There were 15 planes, and those 15 planes were the core of the atomic mission. They trained here from October until about mid-June. The last of the new planes left Wendover in June and went to Tinian, and then that's where the mission took place.
And so, talk a little bit about the history behind the plane and the naming. It's after his mother, correct? That's such a story that I love that story. So I hope that other people will too. If you could, kind of tell
well,
that story.
Of course, while they were training, none of the atomic mission planes had any nose art. In fact, the tail design was changed several times to confuse people. So the night before the mission, the day before the mission, Colonel Tibbets chose which plane he was going to use. It turned out it was a plane that was commanded by Captain Lewis, but Tibbets said, I'm going to be pilot on this mission. And he told one of the airmen, go out and paint the words Enola Gay on that plane, and they did. Enola Gay is Tibbets' mother, and Colonel Tibbets' father wanted him to not be a pilot. He thought he should be a doctor or a dentist. And his mother said, you pursue your flying career. So he, of course, had a fondness for his mother, and that's how that name, Enola Gay, ended up on the plane.
That's so incredible.
Lewis was furious.
That's the other part of the story, because he got basically kicked off the mission.
No, he ended up flying as co-pilot.
Oh, gotcha.
But the story is, Tibbets said, the name's staying on there. If you want to fly the mission with me, you'll just shut up. so that's why you see that iconic Enola Gay, and that will be forever in our memories.
Yeah. And that plane ever here? It was.
Oh,
correct?
Absolutely.
It's hard to tell where. I mean, I guess the tail number would tell you, but you said the tail was changed multiple times. That's something I never knew.
The atomic mission, there was actually a first set of B-29s that they trained with, and then Wichita built a second set with electric reversing propellers and fuel injection instead of carburetors, a number of other improvements. Those planes were delivered to Wendover starting in March of '45, and they slowly were delivered here. So they were all here, and then they all left Wendover and went to the island of Tinian.
And so, this was. Talk to me a little bit about the people that were here during that time. I'm sure that there's some, even though it's very secretive, there's some writings and there's some things that have been logged. What was the feeling of those who were working on this mission while they were here, while they were training?
We've got a number of interviews from the veterans, but the feeling here and what they were told is, you have a job to do. You do your job. Don't ask the guy to the left. Don't ask the guy to the left or the guy to the right what he's doing, because he shouldn't tell you and you shouldn't be asking. So interviewing Leon Smith, who was one of the weaponeers, he worked in one of the buildings that's out on the south part of the base, and he said, this is where my desk was. I worked on the radar fusing system. And he said, I'm not sure what the one on the right or the one on the left was doing. I had a job to do it. We just kept to ourselves and did it. There were a few of those guys that guessed what was going on. They'd had some physics background, and they had kind of figured out what was going on, but nobody dared talk about it. We do know that, for example, one sergeant went to Salt Lake. He was followed, talked a little bit too much. When he got back, he was called into Major Ioana's office, the security guy, and sent to Alaska for the rest of the war. So people just...
And the rural part too, right? Not Anchorage. It was, you were knocking on doors in the tundra.
So that they knew they were doing something special. You fly a practice mission with a 5-ton bomb, you know you're doing something special, but you didn't talk about it.
And so, for you specifically, you obviously have kept this place absolutely beautiful and kept the history alive, what you do.
Yeah, well, when I came out here in 2000, the place was a complete junkyard and just a mess. And for some reason, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. So I just thought somebody ought to do something about this. And I got a couple of guys together, my old partner, Jack Peak.
Nice.
Who's passed away?
A great guy.
Anyway, Jack and I said, let's do it. So we formed a nonprofit foundation. We started spreading the word. We started looking for money, which was incredibly difficult, which is still incredibly difficult. Maybe we'll get a picture of the hangar. We've saved the hangar from falling over